Okay, so we all think we know the story of Abraham Lincoln's assassination, right? But what if I told you there are questions, big questions, that still hang over that night more than a century later? Was it really just a simple act of revenge, or was there something much deeper, something much, much darker at play?
So, picture this. It's April 14th, 1865. The Civil War is finally over. The whole country is breathing this huge sigh of relief, just ready to celebrate. And inside Ford Theater, the mood is electric. And then, in a single flash, in one puff of smoke, all of that joy turns into an absolute, unthinkable national tragedy.
Now, the man who pulled the trigger? That part's no mystery. John Wilkes Booth. I mean, this guy was one of the most famous actors of his day, a true celebrity. And everyone knew he was a die-hard sympathizer for the defeated Confederacy. So that's our central, undisputed fact of the crime.
And right here, this is where our deep dive really begins. Because for as long as this story has been told, people have had doubts. Was Booth really the mastermind here? Or was he just a pawn, a famous face on a much, much larger stage?
First things first, let's break down the official account. The version of events that we've all been taught in history class for generations. It's a pretty straightforward story of revenge.
What's pretty amazing is just how fast everything went down. The shot, Lincoln's death, and then Booth's own end. It all unfolded in just 12 days. It created this very clean, very contained, and, maybe a deceptively simple story.
The investigation pretty quickly zeroed in on this small group. The official conclusion? Booth and his crew, fired up by their Confederate loyalty, acted completely on their own. Case closed. Or was it?
Because as soon as the dust even began to settle, some really troubling questions started to pop up. And when you look closely, these strange little inconsistencies start to appear, creating some serious cracks in that nice, tidy official story.
Okay, first and foremost, and this one is just mind-boggling. The president was a sitting duck. His bodyguard, a police officer named John Frederick Parker, was not at his post. Where was he? He'd left to go get a drink at the saloon right next door. Was that just an unbelievable stroke of luck for Booth, or was it something else entirely?
And then you've got the escape itself. I mean, think about this. Washington, D.C. was basically a military zone on super high alert, and yet Booth, with a broken leg no less, soon to be the most wanted man in the entire country, somehow manages to cross a guarded bridge and just slip out of the city. It seems impossible.
And here's a crucial piece of the puzzle. This was never just about Lincoln. At the exact same moment Booth fired his gun, one of his conspirators was viciously attacking the Secretary of State, William Seward, in his own home. Another was supposed to kill the vice president. This wasn't just a simple revenge plot. This was a coordinated plan to decapitate the entire U.S. government.
So all these nagging questions, they open the door to a much wider, way more complex web of conspiracy. They start to suggest that maybe Booth and his little group weren't the masterminds at all. Maybe they were just the tools, being used by someone with a lot more power.
And this, right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the debate. Was Booth just an arrogant fanatic who wanted fame and revenge, like the official story says? Or was he a hired gun, just a pawn in a much, much bigger game?
So if Booth wasn't pulling the strings, who was? Well, the theories point to a few shadow suspects, some really powerful groups and people who had plenty of their own reasons for wanting Lincoln out of the picture.
So the first big theory is that this wasn't really a crime, but a military operation. A last desperate roll of the dice by the collapsing Confederacy. A secret mission ordered from the very top to throw the Union into total chaos.
Okay, but what if the threat wasn't from the South at all? A second, pretty shocking theory suggests this was a coup from within. That powerful members of Lincoln's own party thought his plans for rebuilding the country were way too soft, and they arranged his murder so they could seize control and punish the South.
And then there's the third theory, and this one goes global. It suggests the assassination wasn't even about the Civil War. It was about money. That powerful international bankers, threatened by Lincoln's economic policies and the rising power of America, had him killed to protect their own fortunes.
So look, we could debate these theories all day, but the more important question might not be whether any of them are true. The real question is, why have they stuck around so powerfully for over 150 years?
Well, the simple fact is, an event this huge just feels wrong.
To kill a president at the very moment of his greatest victory, that's a deep wound to the nation's psyche. And for a lot of people, a simple explanation just doesn't feel big enough.
When you put it all together, the incredible trauma of the war, the actual, real inconsistencies in the case, the intense political hatreds of the time, and just our own psychology, you get the perfect storm for doubt and conspiracy theories to grow and thrive.
And maybe that's really what it all comes down to. A lone, angry actor just seems like too small a cause for such a gigantic effect, and so we search for a bigger explanation, a plot that feels equal in size to the tragedy itself. It's how we try to make sense of the senseless.
This story is so much more than a history lesson about one awful night in 1865. It actually tells us something really profound about how we, as a society, deal with our most traumatic moments.
So why does this matter? Because these theories, they aren't really just about what happened to Lincoln. In a way, they're about us. They reflect our constant struggle to understand history, to find patterns in the chaos, and to find some kind of meaning when we're faced with a devastating loss. And that's the thought I'm going to leave you with. It's a question that really challenges us to think about how we remember the past, what we choose to believe, and why that line between known history and enduring mystery is sometimes so very, very hard to find.